At South Texas Health System Children's, your child's health is our priority. When they're ill or injured, we're ready to help. Our team includes on-staff pediatric specialists in infectious disease, cardiology, orthopedics, neurology, ear, nose, and throat, and more. Our round-the-clock care features the Valley's first dedicated children's ER. For more than 15 years, we've offered healing and hope for kids. And we're here for your family now. South Texas Health System Children's.
Where kids come first.
Greetings and welcome to our latest Let's Talk Children's Health webinar. I'm Tom Castañeda, the System Director of Marketing and Public Relations for South Texas Health System. On behalf of the STHS Children's team, thank you for joining us. By prioritizing the physical, mental, and emotional well-being of their children, parents can help ensure they grow up healthy. So to help parents protect their children's health, STHS Children's hosts these monthly Let's Talk Children's Health webinars. By providing education on health issues affecting kids, parents can help maintain their children's overall well-being. Now, in this installment, we'll be talking about bullying and cyberbullying prevention. Considered serious public health concerns, bullying and cyberbullying are on the rise in the United States, causing widespread negative consequences for victims, perpetrators, and bystanders. 1 out of every 5 students report being bullied per the National Center for Education Statistics, with the prevalence of cyberbullying more than doubling in the past 15 years. Unfortunately, bullying and cyberbullying causes short-term and lasting negative impacts on individuals, including mental health issues and physical problems. So today we're joined by Casey Sauceda, a licensed professional counselor with Mercedes ISD, to learn more about identifying bullying and cyberbullying and offering strategies to prevent and stop it. Thank you, Casey, so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tom.
Now, you are in the school setting, so normally we have people from the behavioral hospital who are kind of talking about the issues they see at the hospital setting, but you're seeing day to day what the impact is on children when it comes to bullying and cyberbullying, right?
Yes, it is a something that, you know, as you said in your introduction, is on the rise. And I think what the conversation needs to circulate around is how it changes all the time. And so being aware of how those changes happen and what bullying looks like, because I think we have this mindset of it looks like one way, but really there's several different ways of how bullying can look.
Exactly. It is not the same as when we were growing up, right, and somebody may have thrown you in the trash can,
right,
or made fun of you. Now it's really evolved, and is it harder to tell now for parents at some point?
Yes. It's really depending on involvement. You know, as parents, I think we need to be really involved in our kids and what they have in their hand in terms of social media, in terms of any sort of electronics. Is it impossible? No, but I think the word we should use is intentional. Our parenting needs to be intentional, so that way we can be well aware of what is going on.
Mm-hmm. As a counselor, when you see a student come in that is reporting bullying, describe some of the feelings that they're talking about, because I don't know if they have those honest and open conversations with their parents as they may with a mental health care professional like yourself.
Right. So a lot of feelings that come with bullying circulate around self-worth, right? They start to doubt themselves, and especially in an age group where you know, hormones are on the rise and all these social interactions are happening. They're starting to be aware of maybe looking at themselves and are they deficient in some areas. And so the way that resonates with them brings on these feelings of a lack of self-worth and where they fit into the big picture. And so finding their footing when they have been bullied and believing that they are worth, right? You know, their self-worth, and that they bring great things to the big picture is where they struggle the most.
Mm-hmm. And obviously education is key. Parents, educators, an entire community should be able to recognize bullying and to help stop it and prevent it if possible. So you put together a great presentation for us. So let's get started.
Sure. So we start with, you know, just kind of breaking the silence and understanding and preventing bullying. So some objectives that we're going to look at is what is bullying, types of bullying, David's Law, steps to stop bullying, risk factors of bullying, statistics, signs of bullying, and talking to children. As we've mentioned, bullying is really, it's evolved. So there's a lot of areas to touch on as we go through this. And I always like to start off with a quote. And this one says, "You will never reach higher ground if you are always pushing others down." So if we look at this, this quote and we let it kind of resonate within us, you know, what is this saying? It's saying that for us to be uplifted, we don't have to hurt others, right? We can help others, and we can create a community of help and being supportive. So we look at bullying, and what is bullying? It is unwanted, aggressive behavior among school-age children that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. And I think that word perceived is super important because it's not real, right? It's not always real. The behavior is repeated or has the potential to be repeated over time. Both kids who are bullied and who bully others may have serious, lasting problems. So where I touch on here is we look at those that are being bullied, but let's also look at the ones who are doing the bullying and seeing how we can offer help across the board. So in order to be considered bullying, the behavior must be aggressive and include an imbalance of power. Kids who bully use their power, such as physical strength, access to embarrassing information, or popularity to control or harm others. Power imbalances can change over time and in different situations, even if they involve the same people. As kids grow, different situations come up, and so, you know, that creates different situations. Repetition. Bullying behaviors happen more than once or have the potential to happen more than once. Bullying includes actions such as making threats, spreading rumors, attacking someone physically or verbally, and excluding someone from a group on purpose. So again, as we've kind of started touching on, bullying has taken on a whole different form, and I think it's evolved. And so really getting a hold and an understanding of what that looks like is the most important. It's the education behind it. So we look at types of bullying. We have physical bullying, which includes hitting, kicking, tripping, pushing, or purposefully damaging other people's property. Even if it can come off as non-aggressive, right? Sometimes somebody may get this habit of being physical with someone else, and it becomes a habit of hitting. Is it necessarily bullying? Not sure quite yet, but we definitely want to be aware of it and of personal space so that it doesn't evolve into a bullying situation. Verbal includes name calling, threatening, teasing, saying mean, nasty, rude things to someone. So again, it's evolved. Teasing, whether it be about a disability, race, gender, sexual identity, anything having to do that targets someone and kind of isolates them. Psychological bullying includes spreading lies about someone, playing jokes, or excluding people. Cyberbullying or online bullying includes hurtful comments, messages, posts, excluding on purpose, spreading gossip, and imitating others online. So as we've mentioned, we've seen a rise in the cyberbullying. There's so many different platforms now in which there are community forums, whether it's gaming, whether it's any sort of social postings. So that is really important, I think, as a school system and as parents, for us to be really aware and up to date with how many platforms there are in which something like this can transpire. So when we look at cyberbullying, we recognize David's Law. Okay, so David's Law during the 85th Texas Legislature, Senate Bill 179, David's Law was passed and signed into law effective September 1st, 2017. The newly enacted law relates to harassment, bullying, and cyberbullying of a public school student, a charter school student, or a minor, and encouraging certain mental health programs for public school students, increasing a criminal penalty, and providing a civil remedy. David is a child from San Antonio, and what motivated this law was David was relentlessly cyberbullied at his school. He even transferred schools. He was 16 years old. This cyberbullying became so brutal, so damaging, that unfortunately David eventually ended up taking his own life. When this happened, it shed a light on the impact of cyberbullying and how kids were feeling in terms of not being able to vocalize what was going on, and the impact it was having on them. For David, when he moved schools, the bullying followed him. It was relentless, and so this law came into legislature, and so now at this time we saw more laws that were there to protect students, not just on campus but also off campus, and making sure that kids knew that they had a voice, that parents had a voice when it came to the cyberbullying. So school districts now are tasked with providing this information to the students so that they understand this is not just something that is coming from the school system. These are laws. This is a law, as it says here, increasing criminal penalty and providing a civil remedy. So when it comes to cyberbullying, it's really important to keep any sort of proof that one has, and to make sure that they hold on to it so that way they can show this is what is going on. So we look at steps to stop cyberbullying, okay? And if you see, we start off with think. So stop and think before you post. It's permanent. And when we look at cyberbullying, like I said, we're not just looking at the ones being bullied, the one that is doing the bullying also, right? So if a student is being bullied, we do not encourage retaliation. We do not encourage a student to retaliate and post something else and and have this back and forth engagement when it comes to the cyberbullying. So for both parties, right, the bully and the one being bullied, stop and think before you post, because it's permanent. So we don't want to have that retaliation, and then when it's reported, now we're seeing like this ongoing cycle of it. Okay, so that leads us to the ignore, do not engage. We don't want to continue the cycle, because if we feed into it, it's like a lot of things. Whatever you feed is going to continue. This is not to say don't do anything about it. This is just saying do not engage in the back and forth of the cyberbullying. Keep proof. As I mentioned before, don't delete the proof of the cyberbullying. Again, everything is permanent. For as much as we would like to think that we delete stuff, it's permanent. It is there. There are ways to retrieve it. Block the bully. Again, this goes back to not engaging and just blocking the person, keeping the proof, and kind of keeping the systematic way of making sure that you have everything to show this is going on. And of course, report it. Report the bullying to a trusted adult. It's really important in the school system that these things get reported. Even if it is happening outside of a school system, because a lot of times we see things trickle in. Is there anything necessarily we can do because of the bullying on the outside? Not always, but when we're aware of it, then there's an awareness of what to look out for in terms of what is happening on campus. We want to make sure that we are aware of these situations, just so that we know that the student is safe, and that there's an open communication of what is going on, because really it's a team effort between parents and school systems. We look at risk factors of bullying. And if you look at the diagram in the middle, we see the individual, and then we see different aspects of the individual in which they engage in. We have family, school, community, and peer engagement. Risk factors are in each one of these components. So when we look at the individual, one risk factor or a couple risk factors can be individual temperament, any sort of social competence, drug use. What are we seeing from the individual? And does this play a role in how they interact with those around them? Peer factors. Who do they hang out with, right? We grew up with that saying, dime con quién andas y te digo quién eres, right? We want to look at who our kiddos are hanging out with, just to kind of get a sense of where they're at. So are they being exposed to violence, any sort of aggressive behavior, other students who are delinquent peers, and how is that influencing our child, okay? We also look at the family component. Is there parental violence, any sort of conflict? Jail, you know, anything that is going to impact a student's well-being. And all these things are factors. Are they indicative of for sure this is going to be a bully? Absolutely not. But we just want to make note that, hey, something is going on beyond the school, and so we see how that influences the child and how that plays out in the school, and how they interact with others. From the school, sense of belonging, respect, and fair treatment. This one is equally important. Creating those relationships in schools gives that student the sense of belonging. If you feel like you belong, guess what's going to happen? You're going to feel comfortable to report. If you don't feel like you belong, you kind of feel this isolation from everybody else, right? So then you're hesitant to tell anybody. Who can I trust? Who can I talk to? I don't have a relationship necessarily with anybody. And then we look at respect and fair treatment. We don't want to underestimate students that they are not able to recognize what respect and fair treatment look like. A lot of times, if they recognize that there is not respect and fair treatment, they'll internalize it in their way and then say, okay, how does this resonate with me, and what am I going to do with this? You know what, I'm being bullied. It doesn't matter what I say, because you know, things aren't fair, or nobody's going to believe me. So we want to be able to create relationships with our students in the schools, so that way we minimize or you know, that feeling of that there isn't fair treatment is not present. We look at the community. Where are our kiddos coming from? The neighborhood safety, connection to adults in the neighborhood, right? Who is around our kids? Again, I'll say that these are some risk factors. I don't want for anybody to feel like, oh, if this is present, this is actually, you know, going to make this person a bully or make this person, you know, a target of bullying. But we just want to be aware. And I've always felt that once you give somebody awareness, it's very hard to take that away. That's where the education comes in, and that's where these conversations happen, is we start to look at all factors and how that plays out in our school systems, in our kiddos' lives, in their families, and then how we can best support that with a team effort between family and school. So we look at statistics, but we also know that this is always changing. So nearly 1 in 8 Texas high school students were electronically bullied through texting and social media in 2019. Then we had the pandemic, and we know that that skyrocketed because we had an uptake in all our electronic devices, in even in the school system, to where lessons are, on some sort of laptop. Now we don't have the phones, right? So that is something that is new this year. And definitely, we look to see if that has an impact on the bullying. More than 1 in 7 Texas high school students reported being bullied at school. Reports of bullying and cyberbullying are highest in middle schools, followed by high schools, and lowest in primary schools. Even in looking at this statistic, again, we want to be aware of a lot of our kiddos are getting electronics at a younger age. We're seeing a lot of kiddos getting social media accounts, and that is a breeding ground for bullying, because there's a lot of power behind a screen when somebody doesn't have to show their face, right? And so the best way I can, when we're dealing with something having to do with cyberbullying, to put it in retrospect, if we look at adults with social media platforms, or we look at ourselves in social media platforms, how many times have we ourselves gotten caught up in what we see in social media? How many times has it made us emotional when we see a post? How many times has it made us emotional in one way or another when we see a friend do something that maybe doesn't resonate well with us? What emotions does that ignite in an adult? And have we ever reflected and said, man, I could have handled that differently, I could have handled that better? I'll even take it a step further in relationships. When we see relationships and we see our partner like a picture in social media, right? Does that get a rise out of us as adults? If that happens with us in adults, imagine a child. How are they able to regulate these emotions of social media if we as adults can struggle with that? If we ask ourselves these questions, if I as an adult struggle with regulating my emotions because of what I see and come across on social media, what do I expect a child to do with these emotions when they are engaged in these platforms, in these back and forth communities of talking and things like that? So just something to kind of think about, something to look into, and just reflect within ourselves, so that way when we have these discussions with our kiddos, we can kind of put it into perspective. So 2 out of every 25 students did not go to school because they felt unsafe at school or on their way to or from school for at least one day during the past month. When we're looking at all aspects of school, when we're looking at truancy, when we're looking at how that affects our school systems, I think it's a fair question to ask. Do our kids feel safe, right? So this doesn't just target, let's say, mental health. This doesn't target just, emotional well-being. This affects all areas across the board, okay? Signs of bullying. So warning signs of bullying, whether it's the bullied or the bullies. Unexplained injuries for the child getting bullied. Lost or destroyed clothing, books, electronic, or jewelry. Changes in eating habits, such as skipping meals or binge eating. Difficulty sleeping or frequent nightmares. Declining grades, loss of interest in schoolwork or not wanting to go to school. Sudden loss of friends or avoidance of social situations. Feelings of helplessness or decreased self-esteem. So these are really important, because rather than kind of, jump on the idea of it's just a child being defiant, let's ask these important questions first. Let's look at what we're seeing and really ask ourselves, what is this behavior indicative of, right? If you have a kiddo that has had great grades and then all of a sudden we see a decline, hey, that says something. That is a loud red flag. Let's ask why. Okay, so when we look at the bullying, the bullied signs, these are questions that we want to ask. It's important though for us to also not ignore the student that is doing the bullying. So from a counseling perspective, we are that impartial set of eyes. We are that impartial, hey, I'm not just here for one, I'm here for all, which includes the student doing the bullying. So if we see students who are getting into physical or verbal fights, having friends who bully others, are increasingly aggressive, getting sent to the principal's office or to detention frequently, have unexplained extra money or new belongings, blame others for their problems, don't accept responsibility for their actions or choices, are competitive and worry about their reputation or popularity. So when we look at these behaviors, again, we ask ourselves, what is this an indication of? From a counseling perspective, we are not, just for one, we are for all. But this is also not to say that we brush everything under the rug and, okay, this student is experiencing XYZ, so we ignore it. No. There is a way for us to implement discipline with counseling, right? We don't want to just be punitive or, all counseling with no accountability. We're able to have both present when we are addressing bullying, right? So we want to integrate both. Hey, there are consequences to our actions, but we're also here to support and change the trajectory of, the path that you're on, right? So we look at the warning signs of both, and then we kind of ask ourselves, what is it that we are seeing and how can we be of support, but while we are still holding that accountability aspect to the student. So we also want to talk to children about bullying. Talking to a child about bullying, what helps versus what hurts. I know that a lot of times when we have these conversations, we as adults, we get in the way of our own selves because we have these conversations and we say, well, when I was younger, this is how it happened. And when I was younger, we did this, X, Y, Z. And we want to hold society to those expectations as what we lived or generations before us lived. And while I can see the validity in that, and there are some aspects that, yes, do work and do help, we also can't ignore the fact that times are different. The rate at which information is being passed along is extremely fast, and where we are not there to fill information for our kids, other kids are there to quickly fill it, or social media is there. So while yes, things have changed and things from the past may still work now, we still want to be aware that things are different and we have to be able to recognize that. So what helps when we're talking to a child and they disclose that they are being bullied, we can say things like, it took a lot of courage to tell me this, as opposed to, why are you letting other people get to you? And it almost comes with an attitude, even I felt the difference in saying it because I can hear it, right? It's kind of like this, like, what? Why are you letting other people get to you? Get over it, right? This kind of get over it tone. What also can help is, I know this is hard for you. You don't deserve to be treated this way, and it's not your fault. What hurts? What have you done to cause people to treat you this way? And we ask ourselves, how many times have we asked that question, right? Pues, ¿qué hiciste? ¿Hiciste algo? And so we quickly go to that, right? To see like, well, what is it that you did? Because also in our culture, it's about taking accountability. Something that helps, I'm always here to listen and to help you. What hurts? You shouldn't care what others think. Kind of goes along with that first one. What helps? How would you like to handle this? What hurts? You just have to be strong and push through this. Be strong, right? That expectation. And even if we talk about the differences in genders, this expectation for our males to be stronger when it comes to bullying. Hey, come on, suck it up, like it's okay, don't worry about it. And hombre, this makes you stronger, and things like that. What helps? Who at school has your back? Being able to recognize those trusted adults, that trusted support system helps. What hurts? Don't let them treat you like that. You need to fight back and stand up for yourself. So we hear a lot of that one, right? Because we don't want our kids to be hurt. And so when as a parent we say that, it's because we're coming from a place of the thought of our child being hurt. So quickly we go to, hey, fight back, stand up for yourself, hit them, do that, no te dejes, y no te dejes, y vale más, And so we want to start changing that narrative to a more communicative conversation of, hey, let's have these conversations and let's see who we're going to talk to, and let me model for you what it is to stand up for somebody in a productive, constructive, communicative way, okay? And so prevention starts with us. Treat everyone with care, both in what you say and do. Not one person is the same as the other. Not one person can take something the same way another person can, and just being aware of that. Tell someone or report it to help stop the harm. That is extremely important. And if you feel you're not being heard, tell somebody else. Invite others to join and make them feel welcome. Again, that supportive community. We want to be supportive and inclusive of everybody and not individual, exclude people. Help create an environment where everyone feels safe and accepted. So that really speaks to relationship building. When we have an environment where everyone feels safe and accepted, guess what? You're going to want to go to school. You're going to want to be a part of that community, and you're going to want to go every day. So just some final messages. Bullying hurts and can make people feel sad for a long time. As simple as that sounds, it's impactful and it's very true. It can carry on into adulthood. It can carry on into self-worth and how one sees themselves, and then how they function in jobs and how they function in relationships. Everyone deserves to feel safe and respected. Community, how that looks, a support system. Together we can stop bullying and build a better world. And even small actions of kindness can make a big change. So that is the biggest, takeaway is there's no small change. We can all do our part.
That is great information. And I love when you present, because you really simplify it so that people can really understand that really we all can do, just take the simple step that you can take to prevent bullying or whatever issue we're talking about. So we appreciate you doing that.
Thank you.
Now let's go over some of the numbers, because I think the statistics, you went over some, I mentioned one in the intro, but 95% of teens in the US are online, and the vast majority access the internet on their mobile device, making it the most common medium for cyberbullying. So it's important to note that our kids are all online, and they're starting to get younger and younger. My niece is 10 years old and has a cell phone. So even she is online. So this is something that we're just seeing. It's today. It's not when in our day when maybe somebody had an AOL computer that they could
like
access.
the dial-up.
Yeah, the dial-up. But now everyone has their phone. So that's one thing. Girls are more likely than boys to be both victims and perpetrators of cyberbullying. 15% of teen girls have been the target of at least 4 different kinds of abusive online behaviors, compared with 6% of boys. Does it surprise you that girls are the perpetrators and when it comes to cyberbullying?
It doesn't. It really doesn't. There's something in that clique mentality. Maybe the level of, maturity. Boys mature later, so they're about play. They're about this. Their interactions and who's gonna play with, at lunch or something. Girls start to be more aware sooner, and so that self-image component, and then comparison, right? And we do start to see, especially in those transitional years, sixth grade is a huge year where we see that transition from elementary mentality to middle school, and we see a big uprise in the bullying in our girls.
Another statistic: Instagram is the social media site where most young people report experiencing cyberbullying, with 42% of those surveyed experiencing harassment on the platform. So Instagram is one place, and I know that we like to post our photos and fun captions and all, but that's the one where, unfortunately, one photo can easily cause a string of attacks if you're not careful.
Absolutely. If your child has, or your niece or somebody in your family has social media, I encourage you to see if they have a profile picture. The trend is they will not post a picture of themselves or any postings, because of how it can get used against them.
Yes.
So then it makes you wonder, well, then why do you have social media?
Yeah.
If you're not going to be posting, if you're not posting yourself, or if you're not posting your interactions, why do we have it? Why does a child have it if that's not what they're doing? So that what you're talking about, one misposting, one picture, one anything, and the way that Instagram has been designed is you can have several accounts that are not under your name, several accounts that, where you are catfishing and things like that, to access more people and to be able to bully without any sort of accountability.
What advice do you have for parents when it comes to Instagram? Because you can create those multiple accounts. What advice do you have to be able to track, is my child has a separate account possibly, or is using Snapchat now, or something else? What advice do you have to just make sure that they're on top of their children's social media usage?
My instinct will say,
Take
don't
away
do
the
it.
phone. Yes.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't have social media.
Yeah.
That's my instinct. I cannot also, tell every parent what to do. So if you decide to allow to have your child, engage in these social media platforms, rules, accessibility, monitoring, establish set guidance for your child, and consequences if they go out of that, right? So holding ourselves accountable to be monitoring, holding ourselves accountable to not take it for granted and say, not my mijito, not my mijita, or that they're being bullied, right? So, oh no, they haven't told me anything, so everything must be okay. We don't want to fall into that mindset. So we want to really establish clear parameters for ourselves and for our child, and then monitor as best as possible, and really ask yourself, what is my policy on privacy? And to what extent am I going to implement that, right?
And it's really important because social media is just, when it comes to, I know that there was a time when I was super active on social media, and after a while it fades, that interest fades. Like, I barely post now, and I think hopefully kids will understand that yeah, it's all exciting at one point, but hey, Go out
It's
and
okay. Yeah.
interact with people, like
Yes.
make connections. Like
Yes.
social media isn't the platform because unfortunately there may be issues there that you're not as able to track as easily.
Right. And so now we have Senate Bill 12, right, into where, you know, there's a glimpse of that in where phones are not
In the classroom.
in the classroom, right?
Yeah.
It's specific and it's tricky in how you explain it, understand it, and things like that. But with also the hope of minimizing the cyberbullying that happens at school, right? So yes, you know, our hope is to have kids engage more with each other, make those personable connections, be more active, see daylight, see, you know, explore outside.
Protect their eyes.
Yes, all these things. I mean, all these benefits that come from disconnecting, even if it's in intervals. It's okay if we start off small. I will tell you that in our DSM-5, there is a diagnosis for gaming, right, addiction. But if you think about it, what is it part of? It's the technology, the interactions, you know, the talking. So we see, right? We saw the nervousness when people started talking about no phones.
Yeah.
Did you hear it? It was the chatter, right? Like everyone started looking around
everyone
like.
went a little crazy about it. Like, wait, what is going on?
You saw that anxiety kind of spike, and everybody what are we going to do?
Yeah.
But then you ask me and you, what did we do? We engaged,
Yes.
right? We talked.
And what are you seeing in the classroom today? Like now that it's been enacted and students are having to turn in their phones, are you seeing a difference?
Yeah, and we're kids are saying secretly, because you know if they say it out loud, then they're not.
Yeah.
They're not on. You know that
Yeah.
that gives a certain image,
You don't want
right?
to be clocked for saying it
right,
out loud.
like we're okay with this.
Yeah.
But secretly they'll say, we're okay with this.
Yeah.
We like it.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
It's not too bad. You know, in fact, I'm able to listen more. I'm paying attention more. I don't mean to throw my son out there, right? But he told me, he was like, hey, Mom, I think this was okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, you know, we'll keep it like that, right? So they're feeling it, they're seeing it. We got to give them more time to really see the benefits.
And I think it's as an adult, if you think of it yourself as an adult, when you are distracted by your phone, like when you're at dinner and you have with friends and you have a plan where everyone puts their phones down and you engage in conversation, you can see that I don't need this phone to exist in this world by my side on 24/7. And it's the same thing with like me at home. And I find that when I'm at home and I'm watching a movie and my phone is there, it's easy to reach for it and kind of stop paying attention. But if I'm in a movie theater, my phone will not be picked up at all. It can be ringing and I'm concentrating on it. So it's the same thing with class. Like you're able to engage more, you're able to learn and absorb everything that you need to versus being distracted by a phone.
Right, and we're also able to start honing back in on those skills of listening, of being present. The distraction, hey, I'm able to focus, and you know, as we see the uprise in diagnosis of ADHD and things like that, well, now can we start bringing those skills back to ourselves and saying, okay, you know what, guess what, I listened for like 10 minutes today, when before I felt like I couldn't, right?
Yeah.
Because it was that fear of missing out, right? Turning the phone over, checking real quick, scrolling, putting it back down, and then, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
And then again, picking it up, right? So there's a lot of benefits in that, and just being able to recognize it and allowing for it to play out without the anxiety behind it.
I get kind of excited when my phone tells me your screen time has gone down for the week. I'm like, wow,
You're like,
I didn't even try it. That's good. Now, I like that you discussed the bully and the bullied. So obviously the person being bullied, that's a serious, but the bully needs help too.
Yes.
And there may be some underlying psychological or emotional issues that they're dealing with. So it's important to also address the bully and make sure that the bully gets help as well.
Right. And that's why I said, you know, it's not just about, you know, saying, okay, we're just going to cover it with counseling. There's a way to incorporate that that consequence with the support. If we're seeing these behaviors, the behavior is a bigger symptom to the need. What is happening that this child feels like this is what they have to do? What is that telling me? What is that signifying to everybody else? What are we seeing in the classroom? Does a child act like this here or here, right? So we have those conversations about what is going on with this child as well. So that role of the counselor of, hey, we're here for everybody, right? We're not here to exclude anybody. Consequences need to be, in place.
But support needs to be there as well, whether it's counseling, therapy, whatever it may be, to also help
figure out
the bully, what's going on, and how we can help the bully as well.
Right, absolutely.
When I was in college, one of my friends would talk about ILAC. And ILAC was I am lovable and capable. It was an acronym for I am lovable and capable. And apparently it was this theory in a self-help book from 1974. But it was this theory that we are all built with this, we are all born with I am lovable and capable. We all have it. But over time, as people chip away at that with us, whether it's through the bullying or just somebody says, oh, you look tired today or whatever, that it chips away. And so to compensate for that, we try to take everyone else's ILAC away. So that's kind of like bullying. Like the self-worth isn't there, so I'm gonna take away your self-worth. Right. So I think it's important for us to teach our kids to remember that you are lovable and capable.
Absolutely.
Like, that should be and don't let anyone else or any negative experience diminish that.
Absolutely. I will tell you, in conjunction with that, the amount of times that we can ask a child, do you know that you are loved? The emotional reaction that we will get from that one question, whether they know you or not, is so indicative of where they are feeling about themselves.
Yes.
If we ask that to an adult, it's the same with an adult. If we ask that to an adult and we say, do you know how much you are loved or how much you are cared for? If we see that emotional reaction, it is also indicative of where that person is feeling in their self-worth. It speaks volumes. Yes. It's one simple question. One simple question. So when we are able to ask that question, build a relationship with the student, see where they're at, then we start to say, okay, this is where this kiddo is at. Okay, I can see why they are bullying. I can see why, or where this person feels like they're not worth, good, love, things like that. So building those relationships and really, like you said, we can simplify it. It really is in building the relationships and having these conversations.
And when we talk about cyberbullying, obviously there are the comments that people can make, but there's different types. Like now you hear about trolling, which is basically like really going after somebody, basically sending a message aimed at really getting them to respond. Like they're really trying to get you to respond. And then we also talk about trickery. So people create fake profiles to start chatting you up, to say that, hey, I have a crush on you, Casey, I see you in class, and try to get information to trust you, and then
to see you fall.
Yeah. And so I think it's important to educate our kids that it's not just a comment or that somebody said a negative comment. You really need to be smart when you're online.
Right. Everything with what you're saying, and even when we talk about aggressiveness, right? We use the word aggressive and we think about the type of bullying we're used to seeing. This is where we talk about it's evolved. People can get very creative, right? It's not just the tripping or the comment. It's about how can I set you up to see you fall? How can I really set a good situation up? There's so many different ways in which that can look. It can be passive aggressively. I can make it seem like I'm your friend and say certain comments that are underlying, that are demeaning, that don't make you feel good, that kind of leave you in a space of like, what? Well, they just said this. and kind of confusion, right? And then you're like, no, they didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
You know, and so you second guess yourself. And then others feed on that. They see the confusion, and then guess what? They continue that behavior. So we really have to be secure in ourselves of what doesn't make us feel good, what doesn't resonate with us, what we're not okay with.
All right, and let's talk a few myths when it comes to bullying and cyberbullying. So one myth is that you can spot a bully from the way they look and act.
Absolutely not. Bullies come in all shapes and sizes. There's not one, typical. Again, a lot of it, are there factors? Yes, there's factors, but it's not always indicative. All stages, all levels, all backgrounds, it doesn't matter. That is definitely not true.
All right, another myth. Online bullying is just banter and harmless.
No, because there's no tone. This is where getting back to communicating, talking, I'll even go as far as saying text messaging. We're so, some people are so used to texting.
And context, and you don't get voice or intonation
No.
or any of that. It's a text.
But how many times do we add an emoji to add tone?
Yeah.
I can say, I miss you 10 different ways, but it'll change every time I put an emoji. If I put I miss you with like a slanted, well, then that means something else. If I put the face with the hearts, that means something else. I can mean it passive aggressively, send it, and then think, oh, I don't want to seem like that. I don't want to be, so I'll send an emoji, right?
Yeah.
So it's every which way, anywhere where we can't hear a person and their tone.
All right, cyberbullying doesn't involve physical harm, so what's the harm? It is still very damaging, right?
It's very damaging because we don't know the other person's state of mind, where they're at in their life, and what that will lead them to. I mean, we see an upscale in self-harm. What self-harm looks like, the things we see when it comes to self-harm. It's not just big cuts. It can be a little bracelet that has a little wire sticking out and somebody just sitting there constantly, right? Suicidal ideations, the same thing. We don't know what real damage it's doing to the other person.
Another myth, it is not bullying if someone deletes the comment or post. So they put it up there, you saw it, but they deleted it. But that's where we talk about the proof, because you really need to know that it no matter whether they deleted it or not, it was said and posted and people most likely saw it.
Right. Once it's out there, it's out there. Once somebody reads it, it just takes that one person to get a hold of it and then spread it like wildfire. So that is why we need to think before we post. What is it that we're saying? Is it harmful? Is it hurtful? Is it uplifting? Is it encouraging? So just because we delete something doesn't make it go away on the social media post or within us and our conscience.
Yeah. And then this is a myth that I think prevents a lot of people from taking action. Reporting a bully will only make things worse. And I think that's a fear that a lot of people have, that if you say something, that it's just going to escalate.
Right. Definitely a myth. This is where the communication is so important, and the teamwork between parents and school systems. We want to build that supportive environment so that people feel comfortable. If we still see that things are ongoing, because really we can't be everywhere at every time, whether we're school staff or parents, right? Parents eventually go to sleep.
Yes.
So, there's always going to be a gap of unsupervised. So we always want to be in communication of, when are we seeing this? Where are we seeing this? Talking, hey, this is going on. Hey, you know what? This happened. So that way it is a team effort, and so that nobody feels like things are going to get worse. I'm supported if I report, when I report.
All right, so now let's get into some of the strategies that you talked about. So there are the 6 R's of bullying prevention. So these are easy to remember rules. So establish and be consistent with enforcing the rules that you create when it comes to bullying. So what you will tolerate, what you won't tolerate for the bully, and just to make sure, and the bullied.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes, it's that communication of clear and concise rules. It's kind of like what I was saying in the home. If we're going to have social media, we're going to need to set clear boundaries, you know, not necessarily the back and forth, but hey, these are the expectations. And this is what is not going to be tolerated under any circumstances. We'll provide support, but we are going to hold accountability based on the rules that we've established.
And hold them accountable, because
Yes.
I have a friend who takes their daughter's phone away and then gives it back. And
Right.
you're like, you said it was going to be for 2 weeks and it was only 2 days. So
Right.
be consistent when it comes to those rules, because kids will realize that.
Yeah, I mean, kids are going to see it. It's going to resonate with them, and they're going to say, "Oh, you know what? If I just keep it cool, you know, then guess what?
I'll get my phone back.
I'll get it back. I know how to play this situation." Kids are going to be kids.
Yeah.
They're going to see where they can. They're going to see where they're allowed. So yes, the consistency is super important.
Recognize. So obviously recognizing the signs of bullying. Like, we should all be familiar with them, whether you're a parent, whether you're a fellow student, a colleague, whatever it is. We should all recognize the signs.
Right, and this comes from asking questions, right? We see something and then kind of, even if it's within ourselves, hey, you know what? I noticed Casey didn't used to do that. I wonder what's going on. Just those questions allows us to open that dialogue, and also helping a student feel seen. Hey, you know what? They see me. They see me, and they see I'm a part of this bigger system, and you know what? They notice that there's something different. So that is really important.
All right. Reports. So this is obviously really important. We want to make sure that there are clear boundaries around how to report it, who to go to, a trusted adult, things like that your child understands where to go when they're going to want to report it.
Absolutely. When we are in the school system, it is imperative that you go to your administrators, right? You want to go to your administrators. You want to make sure that this report is there, so that way they can implement what it is policy is in terms of the investigation and moving forward. I know a lot of times we look for counselors to be the reporters, but this is where the preservation of the counseling role is important, because we are there for both bullied and bully, and so we are there for everybody, right? So for the consequences and for the reporting and making sure, hey, I need my voice to be heard, this is what's happening. Go to your administrator, go to your school system, see what the policy is, and then seeking services through your support system of the counseling.
All right. And then we have respond. So basically teaching your child how to respond to bullying and making sure they know how to stop it in its tracks. The next one is refuse. So basically, don't tolerate bullying. We're not going to tolerate it as a society. We should definitely stop it and make sure that our kids understand that. And the last one is replace. So in this case, it's replacing the emotions that come with the bullying. Instead, we need to teach kindness and empathy.
Yes, and we need to model it. We need to model it within our own lives, you know, as adults. Kids are watching. Kids are watching what we do, watching what we say, and I think it's important for us to recognize that even if we feel like our kids are not actively present in the room, they hear, they see, they internalize, and they turn it over. So we want to make sure that we as adults, in any capacity, in our home, in our school, that we are talking to each other with respect and kindness.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Casey. We really appreciate it. This has all been very enlightening.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
And that officially concludes our webinar. Thank you for joining us. We hope you will continue to prioritize the health of your children. And we look forward to seeing you for our next installment of this Let's Talk Children's Health series on Wednesday, November 19th from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. when we discuss accident prevention. Like and follow the STHS Children's Facebook page for more details on our future Let's Talk Children's Health webinars. And to view our previous seminars, all you have to do is visit sthsletstalk.com. Until our next seminar, stay healthy, stay safe, and please continue to prioritize your health and the health of your loved ones.
At South Texas Health System Children's, your child's health is our priority. When they're ill or injured, we're ready to help. Our team includes on-staff pediatric specialists in infectious disease, cardiology, orthopedics, neurology, ear, nose, and throat, and more. Our round-the-clock care features the Valley's first dedicated children's ER. For more than 15 years, we've offered healing and hope for kids. And we're here for your family now. South Texas Health System Children's.
Where kids come first.